Let's talk about some of the different symbols that you're going to be utilizing when you're in geometry class. So if we're talking about a point, you're always going to use a capital letter to label it. So for example, if this is your point, you could call it point A. If you're talking about a line through points A and B, a line continues forever in both directions. So it needs to have arrows. So when it's through points A and B, you put those letters underneath that symbol. So that would look like this, a line through the points. You can see the points on there, points A and B. The key is that you have arrows. If the line doesn't go through designated points, so maybe you just have a line drawn like this, you can actually label it with a lowercase cursive letter. Oftentimes you'll see letter L used, but that doesn't mean that that's the only letter that you can use. A line segment has endpoints, so it does not continue forever in both directions. So you would show that by not having arrows on the ends. It would stop on both sides. But again, the endpoints are the letters that you would put underneath. So this would look like point A over to point B, but it does not extend in either direction. Whereas a ray does extend in one direction. So if the ray has an endpoint of A passing through B, it's going to look like this. Here's your endpoint, and it continues, it passes through point B, but it keeps going. So a ray has an arrow on one end and a point on the other. When you write that, you can write it like this, A, B, and then since the endpoint is here, this doesn't get an arrow, but this side does. You could also write it like this. If you wrote BA, you just have to make sure the arrow is going this way. Angle ABC, where B is the vertex. So anytime you have three letters to show an angle, that middle letter is always going to be the vertex. The angle symbol you can write like this, ABC. You can also write it with a little arc in there, ABC. And then there's one that's a little bit more sideways with that arc. So all of these are the same thing. But what this means with a ray, or I'm sorry, with an angle, it's two rays that join from a single vertex like this. So you have two rays here. So one of those rays has point A on it, and then it stems from point B. And the other one also comes off point B, but it goes through point C. And so B is your vertex there. Triangle DEF, it's pretty simple for your symbol. You just draw a triangle and you label it DEF. So when you're drawing that, this just means that your vertices are DEF. And you can go either clockwise, so that this one would be E and this one would be F, or you can go counterclockwise, DEF. Either way, it's going to work. Is parallel to, this is two vertical lines, or line segments, really. So you could say, for example, line L is parallel to line M. Again, these are notations for lines that don't necessarily go through designated points, but they are still lines. Perpendicular looks like an upside down T. So for instance, you could say line AB is perpendicular to line CD. That just means that they meet at a right angle. The next two symbols are comparing shapes, okay? So is congruent to looks like an equal sign with a squiggle on top. So you could say something like side length or side AB with a segment. So maybe that side of your segment is, or I'm sorry, the segment, which is the side of a polygon, is congruent to another side, CD. Is similar to, this is where you're comparing shapes that have the exact same, or figures that have the same shape. Congruent, they have the same shape and size. So if they're just the same shape, but not necessarily the same size, you could say they're similar to each other. So for example, you might have two similar triangles. Triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. That means they're the same shape, but not the same size. We also have numerical relationships. And before I do the top two, I want to talk about some notation. If I'm talking about points A and B, right? So here's point A and here's point B. If I want to calculate the distance between them, then I say AB with no symbol. This is telling me that I'm calculating this distance from here to here. That's straight line distance. So there's no symbol, you're just writing it AB with nothing above it. The measure of an angle, remember how we wrote angle ABC like this? If we're talking about its measure, you put a little m underneath. So for numerical relationships, if I'm talking about finding these different lengths, I'm going to get number answers, right? Finding the distance between A and B, finding the measurement of an angle, that's going to give me a number. So your numbers are either you're going to be equal to something or approximately equal. So for instance, you could say the distance from A to B equals 5 units. Or you could say, if you're rounding, maybe that distance from A to B, if it was really, let's say the real distance was 4.712, you could say that's approximately, if you're going to round it, 4.7. Okay. So I think that's about it when it comes to the different symbols. So check out the next video if you want to talk about how we're going to do labels on different figures.